ॐ शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुर्गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. We'll start from this topic. Who would like to get us started?
I can start, Shriji.
Please go ahead.
The laws of creation are not separate from the Creator. Your physical body is not created by you. The powers that are necessary to create are not created by you. These are the Lord's creation. Ishvara Srishti alone. Ishvara Srishti includes the laws of Dharma also. These laws are not created by us, they are only sensed by us. Gravitation is sensed by people and by monkeys as well. Birds seem to sense it also. They know that when they want to fly, they must flap their wings in order to take off into the air. Every creature seems to know at least some of these laws, since they seem to know what they have to do. The laws that are instinctively known by animals are known to us by our common sense. The laws of Dharma are also known to us in the same way. Without any education whatsoever, without being taught, we know what is right and wrong. Although this knowledge is generally called conscience, it is actually our simple common sense knowledge of Dharma and Adharma. What is right and wrong? It is basic knowledge that everyone has about a fact that is already there in the creation. Just as other laws exist as a part of the creation, the law of Dharma also exists as a part of the creation. If the Lord is the creator and the creation is non-separate from the creator, then the law of Dharma, being a part of the creation, is also non-separate from Ishvara. Therefore, Dharma becomes Ishvara. The law of Karma also becomes Ishvara in the same way. This is why we can worship the Lord as Dharma, and we have even given him 2 hands and 2 legs in the form of Rama. When we say Rama was an avatara, we do not need any history at all. Whether Rama existed or not is irrelevant, because he is looked upon only as the Lord. He is Dharma personified. History is necessary only for those who have problems with reference to what is historical. Their concept of the Lord being what it is, such people require history, but we do not require it. A name and a form are given only for the sake of worship and meditation, and that is how Rama, Krishna, and others are presented. Lord Krishna is joy itself. He is nothing but joy, in fact, which happened to have developed 2 hands, 2 legs, a head, and so on, called Krishna, and then taking a flute in hand walked about. Therefore, whether Krishna existed or not does not mean anything. Krishna is a particular name and form given to Parameshwara, whose nature is joy, Ananda Swarupa. Similarly, Rama portrays the Lord as Dharma. Thus, we look at the Lord from various aspects in the creation and represent these aspects with many different gods called Devatas. What happens when I look upon Dharma as Ishvara? If I merely conform to Dharma, I am an ethical person. But if I look upon Dharma as the Lord, I worship that Lord by doing what is to be done by me at a given time and place. Dharma is something already established, and I come to sense it. Therefore, what is to be done by me, I do. Krishna says that by doing the karma that is to be done by us, we are worshipping him. How can that be? This is also something we must know.
Awesome. So we'll just take a quick break to remember where we were. We were doing the Yoga Karma Sukhaushalam. Bhagavan was giving us a definition of what yoga is. And yoga, as we know, is the ultimate goal of all of this is to understand the aikyam between the Jivatma and the Paramatma, the Apara, which is the materialistic world, connected to the higher Para, or the microcosm to the macrocosm. So that connection in many different ways, as long as we are able to make that connection and we can revel in, we can maintain that connection over the rest of our lives without deviating away from it, that liberates us from our day-to-day, what we call as the hamster wheel. That is to give us the option or the opportunity to get. So here, Bhagavan is explaining, like, we've even done this in Vishnu Sahasranamam study, right? Like, dharma. Can anybody remember all those namas, the dharma namas? And we also have the dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. So in anything that we do, if we can follow dharma, we have to follow dharma and not be attached to it, to either our action, or nor can we avoid the action, not be attached to what the result is going to be. All we do is always, as long as only possible, we only pick the right. So every time in any decision we get a fork, whether we can pick this way or that way, but only one is a dharmic path and the other is not necessarily the dharmic path, and picking dharma each and every time. And that's what makes the difference between how we connect with Bhagavan as Dharma himself. I think that's an important takeaway for all of us, to just be able to pick it each and every time. And then we have even previously spoken about Satya Harishchandra as one of the examples, where he has seen Bhagavan as Satyam, and then he followed that each and every time by just following that truth. Awesome. We'll go to the next topic. Who would like to read the next one?
I can.
Please go ahead, Jayashree.
Everything in the creation has its own dharma. With reference to the cycle of creation, the Lord is the creator. The world is born of him and sustained by him. It is not that he created the world and then went to sleep. The creation is on. Every moment, new cells are born, new things are born. You yourself are born, and new children are born. A continual process of creation, shrishti, existence of or sustenance, sthiti, and dissolution, samhara, is going on. This second, a recognized unit of time, is born, and as it is born, it is, and it is also gone. This born is gone is a continuous process. The various living beings on this planet, trees, insects, animals, and human beings, all do exactly what is expected of them. In this way, everything goes well. A tree that has to change its colors before winter comes does so, and it keeps doing so because it is a sugar maple tree, and that is what a sugar maple tree has to do. Being programmed, the tree does exactly what it has to do. If it has to make chlorophyll, it makes chlorophyll. If it has to take in carbon dioxide and give out oxygen, it does exactly what it has to do. That is why a sugar cane continues to be sweet and a lime continues to be sour. All vegetation grows upon the same earth and may even belong to the same species. Still, one may be sour and the other sweet. If, for example, a particular orange happens to be a lemon, an orange is an orange and a lemon is a lemon. If one orange turns out to be a lemon, there is a reason for it. It is because a certain programming is there. It is not that an orange tree decided to have some fun, wanting to see the face of the person who bites into a certain orange and discovers it to be a lemon. The tree does not make any such.
We're here on the second line.
Yes, decision to produce a sour orange. Being programmed as it is, it behaves and contributes to the creation exactly as it must, because the creation is on. Ishvara himself is in the form of the very world, the very creation. Therefore, every blade of grass is what it is, and it is Ishvara. Everything in the vegetable kingdom is Ishvara's creation, and having a particular form does exactly what is expected of it, because members of the botanical world do not have free wills. The world of animals is the same. A snail is always a snail. An oyster is an oyster. A jackal is a jackal. A lion is a lion. A cow is a cow. And a turkey is a turkey. All of them are exactly the same. They do not call themselves snails, lions, and turkeys. A cock will fight like a cock, and that is why it's a cock. Similarly, monkeys behave like monkeys exactly as they should, programmed as they are. They all seem to be fine and are intelligent enough. Even turkeys know how to survive when left to their own devices. The fact that they cannot survive the month of November is only due to the way people choose to celebrate Thanksgiving.
We'll pause there for a quick second. Did anybody watch Punyakoti movie? It is a story that we've been told multiple times in our childhood. It is about the cow that goes to graze for grass in a little deeper woods, and then it encounters a tiger. And then the cow convinces the tiger that it'll go back to feed its little baby, the calf. And the calf is hungry. So there is a whole, beautiful drama and very well written poetry for it. And then the cow goes back, feeds the calf, and then comes back for its true nature, follows its dharma. And because it promised the tiger and the tiger is waiting, there is a beautiful poetry for how it explains to its calf that she has to go back to the tiger because the tiger is hungry and the tiger is waiting for food, and how it is dharma, it is only right to go back, and the other cows encourage her to stay back. You've avoided the tiger, why would you even ever go back? And she goes back, and the tiger is very impressed, and tiger says, no, I won't eat you. So I don't know if anybody remembers that story from childhood, but there is a beautiful book.
I watched it in Kannada. I don't know if it was in multiple languages.
Yeah, and I think Sanskrita Bharati supported it, and Ajay Mahoday can speak to it. There is a Sanskrit version of that if anybody is just learning Sanskrit or is interested in it. It's very simple, beautiful Sanskritam, and if you want to watch the movie, I think it was on Amazon Prime as well. So even animals, in many cases, we have seen like these WhatsApp forwards where the lamb is being taken care of by some jackals and things like that, right? So even animals do make such choices, but on a regular basis because of their very nature. And Swamiji actually brings up the example of if a tiger or a lion decides that, okay, it's really bad to kill other animals for my food, and I'm therefore going to become a vegetarian from today on, it won't be able to do it because it won't be able to think as much. It is its nature. But we have choices like those to think about, to rationalize what is right and what is wrong, and sticking to the right on a consistent basis, not just one or I've done. And we talk about Samaritan stuff here, right? I've done one good deed a day. No, supposed to be doing all deeds should be good deeds according to what Vedas tell us, all our Shastras tell us, is every deed has to be good. And what it's never me and my family. And we've already spoken about the tamasika karma, rajasika karma, and sattvika karma. And even in sattvika karma, there are 3 layers. I don't know if anybody remembers those. Am I doing this for my benefit, or am I doing it for me and my immediate, or am I doing it for a lot cause, but I still have, this is my population, my kulam, my species, whatever it could be, or my countrymen, larger good. So that actually differentiates on what really is dharma at any given point. The more number of people, or more the benefit for a lot more people than just me, that should be picked as the dharma. Even in dharma there are layers. And there's this shloka that we keep talking about, paropakarartham idam shariram, right? Paropakararya vahanti gavaha sorry, vahanti nadyah paropakaraya duhanti gavah paropakaraya phalanti vrikshah paropakaraya idam pakarardham idam shariram. So for the benefit of others is why plants are, growing fruit, why cows are giving milk, why rivers are flowing. If everybody else, every other species is doing that for somebody else's sake, it's only humans that actually think of this hoarding, right? Like I want how many ever millions of dollars that I'm going to take all sorts of paths, right, yes or wrong, but I'm just going to hoard all of this money for the next 10 generations. This is going to last. So that continuous greed that grows in us is because we are the ones that are given the choice, the free will to make those choices, and how our choices are what define. Often are we making these dharmic choices for the sake of everybody else and not just for our own sake. So that's an important aspect for us to remember and continuously remember and put it into practice on a daily basis. Any thoughts before we move to the next topic? Okay, moving on. Who would like to read the next topic?
I will read.
Please go ahead, Anuji.
Human beings are not programmed. It is only when you come to human beings, including a small child, that you find a difference. When you call a puppy, it wags its tail and comes every time because it connects your calling it by name with a cookie or some other treat in your hand. But if you call your young child by the same name, whether you hold out a cookie or not, the child may or may not come. Why? Because the child is much more than a pup. He or she is a complete person with a will of his or her own, asserted from childhood onwards. This is always a problem for parents, especially when they want the child to perform for guests, for instance. If the child is at all concerned about what others will think, there is no way he or she will perform. Even as an adult, most of your worries are based on what others will think, a problem not shared with other living beings. When a cow wants to make a noise, it does so without bothering about what anyone will think. If a dog wants to bark, a donkey wants to bray, or a lion wants to roar, they too do not concern themselves with what others will think. Wherever there is water, all the frogs in the vicinity will gather every evening and put on a concert. The racket they create is so dreadful that you cannot sleep. But the frogs are not at all concerned with what you or anyone else thinks of their music. Only human beings have this problem because they have free will and a self-image, half of which depends on what others think. Therefore, they're entirely different and are not going to do exactly what is to be done unless they decide to do so. In the process of growth, a person picks up hundreds of ragadveshas. Such fancies are always there, and we find that convenience is usually the order that we follow. This is why we often do not bother about no trespassing signs and cut across a rectangle diagonally, thereby creating a path even though it's someone's private property. Once there is a path, a right to it also seems to be established. This is what is meant by the term grandfather rights. We also see evidence that convenience is our nature. Wherever there is a sign saying post no bills, there will even be a bill stuck right on top of the very sign, perhaps so that the problem will disappear. Convenience is often the governing factor. We want what is convenient, what is pleasant. Easy gratification is exactly what human beings go for. If some work, pain, or effort is involved, we want to avoid it. The human disposition is like that, going after easy, quick gratification, wanting only that pays off immediately. This is our nature. We have therefore created in ourselves a number of ragadveshas which prompt us to perform various actions that are not often in keeping with dharma and adharma. To go against dharma, the Lord, is to go against the order, that is the Lord, and this is adharma.
Okay.
Do I continue?
Yeah, please go ahead, Anuji.
Doing one's own duties is worship. Since creation operates according to the same order, there is definitely a reason that you were born. Your parents may not have wanted you, but somehow you were born. Even if you feel unwanted, still you are here because without you, this world is definitely incomplete, which is why you are here. It is as simple as that. If you see a purpose in everything in the world, why should you take your presence in this big politic of humanity as anything other than important, even in your own body politic, everything has a role to play. Just as a tree is there, you're also there. You are important. You have roles to play and things to do. Ishvara's job is going on, and you are a cog in his wheel. This being the case, naturally, you have to do your job. You have to know that at this time and place, this is the job that you have to do. This is called swakarma. Just as every animal and every tree contributes to this great creation, you too make your contribution. Whatever be your swakarma, that very karma becomes an offering to Ishvara. Offerings to the Lord need not always be in the form of flowers. Bhagavan says that by doing what is to be done by you at a given time, you are worshipping him. Because of your recognition of Ishvara, whatever action you perform is your archana, offering, contribution to the Lord. You offer your actions unto the Lord, who is in the form of the creation and who continues to do the job of creation. You are one of his limbs. You perform your role, which is an important one. Otherwise, you would not be here. It is something like a symphony orchestra, where even though it looks as though some of the musicians could be removed, each person has a significant role to play according to the composer. One person may only play one note every 15 minutes, but that is his or her role to play in the overall scheme of the symphony. Similarly, each of you has your own job to do, and when you do it, you are in the harmony with Ishvara, the Lord. This is why, whenever you do exactly what you have to do, you find satisfaction. Even if it is something you do not want to do, once you do it, you feel great about it. Why? Because you are in harmony with Ishvara. Recognizing this, you become a yogi. This recognition is not ordinary, it's a vision. To be in harmony with the world, with what is to be done, with the law of dharma that govern karma, is karma yoga. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. Therefore, you choose your karmas, recognizing Ishvara as dharma. Then your actions become a form of archana to Ishvara. This attitude results in antahkarana shuddhi, purification of the mind. Once this happens, it takes no time for self-knowledge to take place. Since antahkarana shuddhi is what is required, the necessary steps have been completed. Karma yoga, antahkarana shuddhi, and jnana. These steps are mentioned throughout the Gita, and Shankara also mentions them repeatedly in his Bhashya. Through Karma Yoga, the mind is purified, and when the mind is pure, knowledge takes place and moksha is gained. Karma Yoga, therefore, is for moksha alone. Hari Om.
So we'll take a quick pause here. So going back to the original Gita introduction and how Swamiji weaved the whole thing for us. Karma Yoga, people think there are 4 paths or 10 paths to moksha. Bhakti Yoga leads to Karma Yoga leads to moksha, Jnana Yoga leads to moksha, some other yoga, Raja Yoga leads to moksha, and things like that. What Shankaracharya continuously tell us is moksha is gaining knowledge. By pure understanding the aikyam between the Paramatman and the Jivatman, that's what liberates you. And in order to get that jnanam, in order to even understand what that jnanam is, in order for that jnanam to seep into our DNA and get ingrained in it, we have to have the clear mind. And I remember we've talked about this in the past as well. Like, Swami Vivekananda gives us a beautiful analogy for this. If you want to see your reflection in water, you need 2 things. 1, the water needs to be clear. It cannot be muddy. And 2, the water needs to be still. It cannot be turbulent. So here, all of this karma yoga that Bhagavan is talking to us about is for that stillness in mind and to attain the clarity, the purity of thought, so we can become that we can be receptacles of the jnana when that comes through our way. But by purely doing karma or karma yoga, you cannot you cannot attain moksha directly. It just acts as an instrument for you to get the antakarana shuddhi, the clarity or the transparency where you are able to accept. So that's a very important distinction that is repeated multiple times. Like, Shankaracharya nails it on her head many times by doing karma yoga. And even after people attain jnana, they continue on the path of karma yoga. Just because now I've received the jnanam and therefore I don't have to do anything is not an option. They continue to be karma yogis, and they further purify their antarkarana, and further the nididhyasana, the many layers of jnana, like the savikalpa samadhi and the nirvikalpa samadhi. There are many layers. The ritambara prajna that we recently talked about from Yoga Sutras. All of those levels of jnana and the nididhyasana part of attaining, and just not intellectual understanding but also ingraining into our lives. So that's what karma yoga is, an extremely important step. That's why he is saying karma yoga therefore is for moksha, but it is not going to get you to moksha directly. There is the jnana part that we need to attain, we need to achieve on the way. Any thoughts, questions on that before we move to the next shloka?
Vijay, what are the two things you said according to Shankara? Understanding the knowledge, self-knowledge?
Yeah, in order to understand the self-knowledge, when we start, even if somebody, like for example, just think about the same study, it may not appeal to our family members. It may not appeal to many other people because they still have to do some work in understanding, they're doing the antakarana shuddhi. So stillness of mind, and Patanjali, Yogi Patanjali calls it yogas chitta vritti nirodha, the removal of vrittis in our mind, the constant thoughts that keep coming as waves and ripples in our mind. So the mind is not still at any given point of time. So he says stillness of mind is very important, just like how ripples in water will not allow you to see your reflection. That's one condition. The other condition, the purity of water. If it is muddy, then you can't see through your reflection in that water. So karma yoga helps us get that purity and clarity. And dhyana yoga, which is going to come in 6th chapter, will help us by pure meditation, will help us still our mind. So when jnana comes to us, we become good receptors of jnana, and we continue to ingrain it into our
Okay,
DNAs.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
We'll move to
Can I
shloka
read,
49.
I'd like to read.
Go ahead, Taraji, please.
Shri-
Taraji, did you want to share a thought?
Yeah, I just wanted to know the attributes of a person who has got that self-knowledge. What would, like Ramakrishna Paramahimsa, like that, like what, how can we really define in points?
I think Bhagavan is going to talk about that in 255. We are very close to one of my favorite slokas of Gita, which is about Sthita Prajna. And Arjuna is going to ask the same question, like, how do I differentiate? How do I know? How do I recognize? How does this person that you're talking about, that is a jnani, how does he walk? How does he sit? And that's the kind of question that Arjuna is asking shloka 5. But one simple definition 25 is somebody who is atmanyeva atmana tushtaha, somebody who is satisfied within himself, or somebody who is content, who is not looking for outwardly happiness to keep him engaged or keep. And there's a lot more deeper meaning to it, so we will read more. But if you're interested, 255 in the same book would give you all the answers.
Okay, thank you.
Padmaji,
Surayana.
Sorry?
I think Anuji wanted to share something. Go ahead.
no, I said Padmaji became Arjuna right now.
My God. that means I'm potential for self-knowledge.
Oh, absolutely. You can definitely count. And I was actually thinking here, thinking what Arjuna is about to just say. Like, we are in
No,
49.
because when we listen to all the different sages, right? Like I'm also, after you said you're from Vidyalaya, I'm looking at so many videos which are all online, so many
Yeah.
Swamijis. So
Yeah.
I'm just thinking they are all realized souls, like to be able to speak. But they're all realized souls, right? And they're still doing the job and they're still sharing. And I'm just thinking, what is the defining moment? Am I going to go anywhere near there? I'm thinking.
So I can tell you something that Swamiji used to say very often. The truth is, and there are like, two different variations, and maybe we'll take a moment to talk about this, Taraji. Apologies. I'll just take a few minutes. So the knowledge is as simple as Tattvamasi, right? So you are that. You are no different than the Paramatman in terms of composition. He is consciousness. He is the whole universe himself, and he is in everything that exists, and therefore he exists in you. You cannot be different and you cannot be outside of him. So you cannot say that is Bhagavan and this is me. So this is essentially what is being taught to us, what Upanishads are teaching us. And what Shankaracharya says many times is, when that knowledge comes to you, you are being told this for the first time, it cannot be untold. You cannot not have this knowledge, which means the very moment a guru has told you Tattvamasi, where the guru is saying you are that, and the person is telling to himself like Aham Brahmasmi. And these are Mahavakyas from the Upanishads, right? And there are like gazillions of Mahavakyas when you read Upanishads. It just appears like so often. It's already knowledge that I know, whether I want to live in that consciously throughout, or would I want to say, oh, now I'm about to study Gita, therefore, or I'm about to do my puja, therefore I'm going to bring this knowledge to mind or to my forethought, and then I'm going to do it. And I'm just going to pack it and keep it inside, and maybe for the next day puja or next week study, I'm going to bring it out. That is not possible, because it is always at the back of your mind. You already know that you are nothing but that consciousness that is within you. The difference is there is something called as and Shankaracharya, in most works, there is one work that I specifically like, called the Aparokshanubhuti. But in all the works, he very specifically says the knowledge has been given to you. If you think knowledge is jnani, you are already a jnani because you have the knowledge. Whether you use it, whether you believe it, whether you don't believe it, that's all up to you now. And that's where we have done the Shravanam. The Mananam is all about clarifying the doubts. Why I can't believe. First, obviously, nobody wants to believe that we are nothing but Paramatman. We always have been seeing Paramatman in the Vigraham, or Paramatman in the photo, or Paramatman in my Ishtadevata Rupam. And I cannot believe that, oh, he is me or I am him. So it takes understanding on what Upanishads are trying to teach us. Through Mananam, we clarify all the doubts. And Nididhyasanam is the phase we are trying to imbibe this knowledge so we can live with that as the backdrop in every activity that we do. So in his definition, I'm not saying this, in his definition, he says, you have the knowledge, therefore you are the jnani. And the difference would come how you take that jnanam and how you use it. Whether you believe it or not is the next steps to it, which is the parokshanubhuti and the aparokshanubhuti. Did I make sense?
Sriji.
Yes. So when we get that knowledge, that they say that moksham is only, next is only moksham, right? So all the people who've got that knowledge is on the pathway or gateway to moksham. Is that right?
So that knowledge, if properly imbibed, is moksha. So there is no difference between that jnanam and moksha, and I'll tell you why. So once you have the moksha is nothing but liberation, like that freedom of that you're not dependent on external factors, you're not dependent on external things to please you, amuse you, you're not dependent on your family members, or you're not dependent on your job or weather, whatever is trying to piss you off, right? Like that continuous sat chit anandam that is already within us, that we are uncovering it. And if I can take up a little more time, Swamiji gives an analogy. And I think this is Swami Paramadhananda ji who gives this analogy. He says there was an ashram, and there were lots of students in that ashram, and there is Swamiji. And they were having difficulty in finding fresh water. So the students have to go further away and bring water from somewhere else. So one day, Swamiji invites, I'm forgetting the profession, what it is called, somebody who finds where the fresh water is, right? Like when they bring their meters and they check. So he brings a professional, and the professional keeps searching everywhere in the ashram to find where is the proper place to start digging a well for groundwater. And after a lot of search, that professional finds that it is right under Swamiji's feet. Like wherever Swamiji has been sitting with his under his seat, that's where, and there is amazing groundwater. So Swamiji gives this analogy to explain that what you're looking for all your life for happiness, and we have talked about this, every activity we do, including any philanthropic activities, everything is for our own satisfaction. We are trying to find ourselves in an elevated, joyous, or in that anandam mode. So if I am studying Gita because it gives me happiness, if it doesn't give me happiness, I don't want to be there. I'm irritated with it. I'm looking at my watch. I want to, probably I feel like falling asleep. If I'm eating an ice cream, because it gives me joy. I am cooking for my family because when I see them happy, and when I see them enjoying their food, I am happy. If I am donating to a particular cause, or I'm working for a particular cause, it gives me happiness. There is something that I'm contributing towards a larger goal. So if we are doing everything to find that happiness, what Vedanta tells us is that happiness is within you. That is, even if you connect Lalita Sahasranamam here, Antarmukha Samaradhya, Bahirmukha Sudurlabha. So it just, going inwards is where you will uncover that happiness. So this jnana is supposed to tell us, or supposed to, jnana tries to explain to us, and we are supposed to understand that I don't need anything else to give me that happiness. I am born as happy. I am born Satchidanandam. So that happiness is already within me. All of these raga dveshas that I am collecting, I'm thinking, oh, this weather doesn't suit me, or this, I don't like this mosquito because it's biting me. We are creating our own scenarios where we are going through turmoil and creating and complicating our lives and going into this hamster wheel of continuous rotation of, I like to acquire what I want or what I like, and I continue to work hard so I can retain it for as long as I can, because I don't want to lose it. And then if I lose it, I am going to be very depressed about it. So we are creating these scenarios. What Vedanta tells us is, don't worry about all of those. Let things smoothly go by. It's like the movie star example, or the movie screen example we have seen. There are two different examples, analogies. Is this, you are like the screen behind the movie, and the movie keeps playing in front of you or on you, to be on, like in that movie screen analogy. The movie has, some fight, some song, some comedy, whatever it may be. Nothing stains the screen that is behind it. Similarly, the Atman within us does not go through any of these turmoils. Do I associate myself with the body, mind, or sense organs? Or do I associate myself to the Atman? Because when I say I have a body, I have a hand, I am associating with myself with who I am. That I am means I am the consciousness. I am the Satchidananda Brahman, nothing but him. And therefore, nothing needs to please me or amuse me or make me happy. I am by the very nature the happiness. That is the understanding of Tattvamasi in its essence. And the jnana itself is moksha. There is no other, it's not from point A is karma yoga, point B is jnana, and point C is moksha. As soon as you get that jnana, you're supposed to be liberated, but it may take some time for us to understand, get our doubts cleared, have this imbibed in us, and that may be a process, but jnana is not different from moksha. I don't know if I made any sense with all of that explanation.
No, it's
Sriji,
nice to listen. Yeah. What I was thinking, Moksham, is for my interpretation, maybe that's why I had different thinking, is that no more birth and no death. That is what I was thinking about, because we keep finishing, we are born again and again for the karmam, right? So moksham for me means that's it. So we are not going to be born anymore. I was thinking on
correct.
those lines, but
Yes.
I like this. This is very philosophical. I will change it a little bit. Yeah.
So even in that sense, Padmaji, that is also considered like, the mukti from from the lives, the births and deaths, the cycle of birth and death. That is also the same jnanam. It is nothing different, because if I'm the Atman, I don't have any more birth and death. The birth and death is for the body and the mind and senses, which is an external object to me, just like, how my phone may die sometime tomorrow, or my mic may die sometime tomorrow, but I'm going to be here. Similarly, my Atman is ever existent, it's eternal, but my body may go away. So I am, because of jnanam, my karmas don't attach, or karmas don't get accumulated by the Atman. So I'm not going to accrue any karmas. And what I have to do then is only the prarabdha karma, what has already fructified. I am going to continue to use karma yoga methodology to to deal with the prarabdha karma that is from now until the body lives. And after that, there is no birth and death.
Sriji, you explained it very well. I have a quick question. Is parakshanubhuti means realizing this and getting that happiness from it, from realization or the bliss?
So paroksha is, I understand the knowledge, but it is still feels external to me. Aparoksham is, I am not different from the knowledge. I completely, it is, the knowledge is me. I don't know if I made sense with that sentence.
Yes, I understood. Yes.
Yes, Sriji. I just want to add one thing here. I remember a few classes ago, we talked about karma yoga. What is the path to moksha? And we were all giving answers like karma yoga, then jnana yoga. But you were not too happy about all those answers. I could see, and I was like, I even wrote a flow chart and everything, contemplating on it. But today the answer is very clear, Sriji. Thank you so much.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. Awesome.
Shriji, I think I have to get the whole thing. But what I understand from this is, once I understand that I am one with the consciousness, the original consciousness, then my existence means nothing to me, in the sense the physical existence doesn't mean anything to me, irrespective of whether I'm going to take any other birth or death. It is just that I am happy in the state that I am with the consciousness, and I just go through the cycle. So there's no more cycle at all. Once
Yeah.
yeah.
Correct. So I will take another example. So for example, there is this mala, this Patika mala that I wear. I see these many beads. Let's assume these are all different names and forms. I'm assuming my video is on. Is everybody able to see me? Maybe, you know what? Maybe I'll stop sharing for a minute.
Now we see.
Okay. So okay. So we say, you know, these are all different beads, right? All made of the same material. But and I say, let's assume these are all the names and forms. These are everything that you see around in the world. What connects all of these is this consciousness.
Right.
This is the common thing among all the beads, therefore they exist in the form of a chain. Similarly, the consciousness is the common thread, the consciousness in me, and I'm not talking about conscience, right? And last time I tried to differentiate those two words. Consciousness is the pure awareness. Apart from the matter and energy, which are jadam is the word that is used. I don't know how to translate that to anything else. So let's put a word like inactive. Okay, that's not the right word, but jadam. It is not chaitanyam. Chaitanyam is active, that is aware, that is conscious. So there is the jadam and there is the chaitanyam that is injected into this jadam, or when the whole universe happened, what existed originally was the chaitanyam, and then from chaitanyam came this material manifested world that consists of energy and matter. But it did not happen that, like, you know, the consciousness stayed in one place and then just sent out the material, like the matter and energy out. The consciousness came with it. So around you, there is consciousness, just like electricity is the example that Swami Paramarthanandaji gives us. You know, there is electricity all over, all around you. Similarly, consciousness is everywhere throughout. But what's the difference is when I want to turn on a light, or you know, I have to pass it through a wire, so the electrons pass in a particular flow. So the electricity, and then I have to have a filament, and I have to have a bulb, I have to have a switch, whatever is required for me to connect it, so I can light a bulb with it. The same electricity can be used to turn on a TV, or to play a video on TV, or to cool something through a fridge, or some other purposes. Similarly, the consciousness is the underlying substratum that exists throughout the universe. I've studied this in Vishnu Sahasranamam as Thanu. As Vishnu, the Nama itself is, he pervades everything. He is the consciousness himself. And it pervades in me as well. And when I go away, the consciousness is out of this body. The body becomes cold, and it's a matter and energy that just depletes, right? It just goes away. So in that sense, you are the consciousness. You are nothing but him. Ultimately, when I'm speaking, it is him who's speaking through me, through this body. And so yeah, let's put it, you know, there's this other definition. Paramatman is everything. He is not dependent on anything. Jivatman is Paramatman encapsulated in a body. Did I make sense?
Yes.
So if my understanding is I can limit myself to the body and say I'm a Jivatma, or remove the boundaries of my body and connect myself to the consciousness that exists across the universe.
Okay.
And by doing so, I am no different from Paramatman in that sense. I am not saying I am Paramatma within this body, right? That's crazy. And some people do that. And it makes us laugh. We are not talking about, there are elevated human beings. I'm not disagreeing with it. But when we say people are Bhagwan, when we think about that, we are seeing that elevated human being that was able to get to this knowledge of, or understand and imbibe this knowledge of, that I am nothing but the consciousness. So if I'm the consciousness, can Bhagavan be tainted with karmas? Can consciousness be tainted with karmas? No. So it is my understanding of who I am connecting with. What am I connecting myself with? Am I connecting myself with the matter and energy called this body? Or am I connecting with consciousness? And by pure connection, and if I live with that as the screen on the movie, and when Swamiji makes fun of a lot of people, and I'm one of those, when we watch a movie, we get so involved, and if there is an emotional scene, we start crying, and if there is comedy, we just feel part of that whole family, whatever. So if we get ourselves into the happenings around us with such involvement without detachment, then we cannot be calling ourselves the consciousness. So that's why Bhagavan is talking about asanga, the unattachment, detachment from whatever is happening. Detach yourself and watch. Not that you're inactive and you're not taking action, but even in the action, just do your action and don't be detached to the result. Whatever may be happening, whatever is your dharma, do that. But you are the Atman, know that part and live with that backdrop, and act accordingly as required in the universe, in the world. Did that make sense?
So I understand that, got that point. The only thing is that switch, for example, that, okay, so I understand now that I am part of the original, or I am the original consciousness, sorry. And but there is still all the karmas that I have gained. The banks of both the bad and the good karmas is still there. So that switch of not having a cycle anymore cannot happen the moment meaning it has to be, that's the thing I don't understand. So I still have to finish my karmas, isn't it? I have to, though I know I won't accumulate further, but I still have to go through what I have to go through, isn't it?
Talking about, that is one thing that will stay with us, and we have to, that is what are the scenarios. For example, let's think about, say, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa or Swami Vivekananda or Ramana Maharshi or any of the jnanis. They all had to go through scenarios in their life, right? So the prarabdha karma will continue to fructify and pose new scenarios, and how we act in those scenarios being detached, that's how we will not continue to gain more karma. Get attached to those scenarios and they get involved into it and say, oh, I like this scenario, I don't like this scenario, and get attached to the results. Then the moment you have likes and dislikes, and that's what Swami Tattvavidananda ji always says, people do make two buckets. There is a like bucket and there is a I don't like bucket. Try to not do that and be not attached to things. Just do your duty, anushtanam. So prarabdha cannot be taken away. That can be taken away, and it cannot be taken away as soon as you attain the knowledge. So there is as we get the knowledge and the whole nididhyasana part is completed, there is a jivan mukti and there is the videha mukti. Okay, so jivan mukti is living in a body, somebody is liberated, and videha mukti happens once somebody leaves the body and they are liberated and they are not going to be reborn. So in the time period of jivan mukti, where they're still alive, and the scenarios are being presented to them, those scenarios are based on their prarabdha karmas, not what they are gaining at the moment. But how they act in those scenarios is what will define if they're going to reap karmas out of those actions or not. Did I make sense? If they remain unattached, they are not going to have future karmas that is going to lead them to a future life. But whatever karmas they have brought with them, that will continue, like the prarabdha karma will go. And Shankaracharya uses the analogy of what do you call those? Fried corn seeds is the analogy he uses. I'm trying to recollect the Sanskritam. There's a nyaya for it, which I can't recollect now. But he says fried corn seeds, how they will not germinate even if you plant them. All the sanchita karmas for such a person will not germinate in the future. So sanchita karma will not germinate. He is not repeating new karmas, and prarabdha karma is only what's going to stay. There is no agama karma.
Okay. You said Jivan Mukti. The other was, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the name.
Videha mukti.
Videha Mukti. Okay. So now we understand that when you reach the Videha Mukti, there is no cycle of whatever, death and birth and things like that. But still, Krishna, if we use the same word like a Paramatma in a body Jivatma, he was born as a Jivatma. That is to maybe spread the word again, or meaning so that such still happens, doesn't it?
Paramatman, and I remember early in our study classes, I did post a message, so I'll probably go find it and repost that. It's a very good question, Jayashriji. So Bhagavan did not take a birth as Jivatma. He was an avatara. And the post I posted was the differentiation between what makes an avatara different from a regular jiva taking a birth. So that will answer your question.
Okay, understood. Now, what about Shankaracharya? What about Sai? These people also all, or I'm sorry, it's just so many questions in my head. I apologize.
Absolutely.
These are all people who have had the Videha Mukti, isn't it? These are all people who are, per me, meaning my thing is they understand everything, right? So then they're still born, isn't it? Then how do we call them again?
Mukti is after they leave this body. For example, let's think about, say, Shankaracharya. So he had some things that he had to finish in this world. He will take a birth, finish those activities, and then, so while he is existing in those, like, if he lived for 32 years, he would all of those prarabdhas that are going to, like, who's going to or bhiksha that day for when he is doing, like, his padayatra, or doing the padayatra itself is not an easy task. So all thus will continue to manifest before him, and how he continues to just do his job and doesn't really worry about all of things that are happening of him. That is the Jivan Mukti state of Adi Shankaracharya from the age of, say, let's say 7, when he realized, till the age of left the body, called as Jivan Mukta, and he is a Jivan Mukta. And as soon as he leaves the body, that when he is a he attains Videha Mukti, which means he will not get another body. So we would never know if Shankaracharya would ever take birth. But what Shastras tell us, he would not take birth, and I believe he would not take birth. Make sense?
Okay. Yes. Thank you so much.
Sriji, one quick question. So the karmas you make get attached to your subtle body, right? Not to your consciousness.
So Brahma Sutras talk about a lot of those in detail, on what actually carries your karmas to the next birth, and what actually remains, what is that seed that germinates in us as a body in the future. So I'll bring some additional points on that for next. I love Brahma Sutras, and it's a very subject, and I actually, Karma Sutras are not, but I have understood or tried to understand. It's a complicated thing. Shankaracharya's bhasyam on that, and Pujya Swamiji's lectures on it. So there is a whole section that just is contributed to the complexity of understanding how karmas transform from, like, when we leave this body, what part of it carries it to the next birth.
I also have another, this may be a silly, stupid question. After we, we're talking about death and birth, right? And when a consciousness leaves this jivam, and then it's reborn into another life, in between this, what happens to the consciousness?
So think about it like electricity, right? Consciousness is everywhere. And like, Shankara, maybe I should, instead of electricity, we'll go with what Shankaracharya provides as the analogy. Think about space, right? All of this exists, and I have a pot. And so he calls it ghatakasham and patakasham. The pot, and there is space in the pot, and there is space everywhere. If the pot breaks, what happens to the space? It merges with everything.
Right. Yeah.
There is no difference between this consciousness and this consciousness. Between point A to point B, like, what our movies show. Bhagavan is everywhere. To travel anywhere from me to reach him, he is here. So if I'm leaving this body, my consciousness automatically merges everything else that is around me. Similarly, if when we talk about electricity as the example, electrons are always, like, are all here, and electricity is just trying to send them through in one direction. And if that wire breaks or the bulb breaks, then the electrons are all over. So consciousness does not go anywhere. Consciousness everywhere. It occupies every small little, and consciousness is what generates time and space. So when we talk about Big Bang and how universe is still expanding is what science says, right? And if it's from a small particle, the universe is expanding. As consciousness is expanding, matter and energy being created, and time and space are being created. At some point, all of this will come back to the unmanifestation and come back to that single particle. And that single consciousness, it just has manifested energy and matter. Does that make sense?
So then this leads to a question. So then, is there no heaven? And how in Puranas they show us, right? Also, so is there no such thing then? Heaven and, like, Yamaloka. I know you said Yamaloka is nothing but Archita and all that. So then there is no such thing. Then until you're done with this rebirth cycle, we're going to just be conscious and around here.
So Shankaracharya says if Shastra says it exists, so we cannot deny that. But again, the way it is explained is that heaven and hell is again created by us. You can have a heaven in the same, two children born in the same house. One could feel that house is heaven, and the other person could feel that house is hell and wants to get out. We create our own heaven and hell just because of our likes and dislikes and how we attach or how happy or irritated we are with things. So by creating the environment that is, when we start seeing Bhagavan in everything, and I say, every snowflake that falls, and when we say, oh my God, there's so much snow, I understand, sorry for all those people from, I apologize, I know snow wasn't fun this time, I completely understand. For us, snow is everybody complains about it, and I keep thinking, we're in Canada. So aren't we already expecting this? There is
we got it traditionally from Canada this time. other than the blessing.
So I keep thinking, like, why are we talking about a topic that is supposed to be a normal thing in Canada? We all live in Canada knowing that it's going to snow during winter. So what's the point of even about, oh my God, it's snowing again? Like, no, it's like seeing Bhagavan in each and every snowflake and enjoying snow the way it is. I personally, like, I haven't been like this forever, but when snow falls on my windshield, I actually have like such, it's like as if Bhagavan is trying to play with me. It's a game that I interact with him, and he is like, talking to me through those or smiling at me. So just being able to see him in everything just liberates you from the limitations of me and you. So honestly, like, with all of, there's 17 people on the call, including myself. Tell me, we close our eyes and think about or observing breath. So I'm trying to listen to my heartbeat. Whatever is listening to the heartbeat or observing the breath, is that different, you and me? Think of that for a moment. That is consciousness. And that consciousness cannot be different. That is the underlying substratum. And if that consciousness does not exist, none of us can exist, in the sense of none of us would be aware of that I am there, or my mic is here, or my here. I would not know anything. That consciousness is the existence. Without that, there is nothing.
The mind-blowing analogy, Sriji. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much.
It's a long story.
You Sri.
I
Sriji,
can say,
That's a lot of
moksha
Thank you,
is created by
Sriji.
you, and the same way, the sadness is also created by you. So
Yeah.
it depends. The same situation can be a very happy situation for somebody and very sad situation for another, and it is in
Exactly.
your lookout how you look it up. Yeah.
Exactly. And Swamiji always explains, right? Like, this one person who is so excited he's getting married, and then you see this other person who is saying, like, oh my God, I'm married. How do I get rid of this marriage? I don't want it. And he's filing for divorce. And for the same, for us, there is this music that we really loved when we were young, and we played that song 10 times. But, in an hour after that, we don't like that same song. It's that, the law of diminishing marginal utility. Or we just transform into a completely different person. And previously I listened to like rock, listening to, I can't tolerate that. This one, was it me that was listening to it? So we keep changing over a period of time, but the consciousness is the same throughout. Nothing changes for it. I'm conscious of what's happening around me. Even when I am in deep sleep mode, I am conscious of what's happening. And that consciousness is nothing but me.
Sriji,
I had heard.
with all
The
this, no, can I go? Anu?
Yeah.
With all the knowledge of consciousness and being one with it and being aware of this in everybody and everything, my behavior, if I start changing, and because my perspectives are changing, people are going to call me mad. People that's going to call me mad. I can't. I will treat it as completely out. So I'm just thinking, I will understand with this knowledge, I can understand the behavior of others, and I don't react.
So I can tell you, nobody has called me mad yet.
Okay.
You were like, last vacation I had, which was like way before COVID. And I don't know if I told you this. I'm sorry. And I wanted to experiment that everybody that I'm going to meet in that during that vacation, I'm going to feel as if God is, because that person, like, and that's the whole point of namaste, right? Namaste is I am like this, the consciousness in me is doing namaha to the consciousness in you. You are no different than Bhagavan, nor am I, because we are all ultimately creation, and he is the underlying fabric in all of this. And then science also call it, like, I'm trying to recollect what is there is a term, aware, but we say it is conscious, and the substratum is aware of what's happening. It cannot be just dead matter. So I decided that I'm going to use this opportunity, because in the office I do have to have right, like somebody comes and tell. There was one day I'm like, I'm going to just not be irritated with anybody. I'm going to try this. And I go into the office and this guy comes and tells me like, Shri, I'm going to take like 6 weeks of vacation. And he has 3 weeks allowed. I'm thinking like, okay, you know what? I need to ask you more questions. I cannot just everything for by face value. So there is this vacation time. I thought I'd just use it. And as if every interaction, no matter what, whoever interacts with me, could be a waiter in a hotel, or it could be anybody on the road, it could be a cab driver, doesn't matter. It's as if Bhagavan is interacting with me. Try that experiment for half a day or an hour. See how you feel about it. It is amazing. And just look at their eyes, and this is called Chakshuvidya, one of the 32 Brahma Vidyas that are taught in Upanishads. Just by looking at somebody's eyes. And that's why, we always heard from our parents that, speak to me when, look into my eyes and speak to me, right? So when we look into somebody's eyes, that consciousness reflects through those eyes. That's called, Chakshuvidya. So observe and try looking at their eyes and see that, feel that, like, go like peer through that consciousness and try to interact with that consciousness. So your consciousness interacting with that consciousness, not that they're different, they're just embodied in 2 different bodies, and see if you find that connection. This has to be personally experienced, cannot be taught. Just try that, and I would recommend all of you to do it, and probably try with your family first so people don't call you mad. But every interaction was so amazing. I still remember all those faces. I went to Khandala, I went to Thiruvananthapuram, I went to so many places. And every one of those smiles, and how I smiled at them, how I interacted with them, because I'm now interacting with Bhagavan, right? Like it's not somebody. So there was absolutely like not a chance of getting irritated with anyone, or like being loud at anyone. It was such pure, amazing relationship. Not that I did not fall on anybody's feet, but I had tears in my eyes. Like, my husband would just, he knows what I'm experimenting with. So he kind of knew what I was going into and why I was like, tearing up. He would just hold my hand like, okay, you control yourself. Don't cry. People thinking you're going through something. But it was such beautiful experience. I would encourage everybody to experiment with that.
That is love. That is the
Sorry.
love from the heart. Yeah.
Yeah. I really wanted to say something. Sorry.
No. I said it's very similar to your analogy of the snowflakes. I have heard about the gopis when the water is boiling and they're cooking rice. They are watching the Kalinga Nartanam.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Easily. I can relate to that.
The second thing I wanted to add was that Jayashree ji was asking about that we still have our prarabdham, even though we don't create any more agama karmam and all that. But many of the things that I read or listen to also talk about that just like Alvars, many of them were thieves also. They may have been stealing for a good cause, but they were all pardoned by God and they got mukti in that particular birth. So it tells you that God's grace is also a very big factor in order to reduce your prarabdha karmam.
Absolutely. very much.
Thank you, Anuji.
You wanted me to remind you Kataksham, particularly when you're talking about Akshu. I thought like,
I know, right? That's also related to Akshu. So maybe we'll chat about that in the Lalita Sahasranamam tomorrow.
sure,
So why
sure.
don't we ask for Kadaksham?
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you, Guruji.
Awesome. So we conclude here. पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ सर्वं श्रीमन्नारायण चरणारविन्दार्पणमस्तु. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you,
time and
Gigi.
dedication.
Thank you.
Thank you. ధన్యవాదాः.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Sorry,
Sriji.
Guruji. I
Dhanyavadaha.
think because of the time, 9 p.m. I thought